Tonight on Geek Tank, the Kanay EM engine.
Also, Magic! The Gathering. We will cover our mini micro sealed deck tournament just among our group. Geek Tank.
Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. You got just one ring that'll rule them all. Hoopy fruit, remember your towel. Get your uru hammers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword plus one. Use Valerian steel if it'll get you to come to the Geek Tank. To the Geek Tank, the Rocky Mountain Geek Tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy.
and this is Geek Tank for August 15th, 2014. Got a really cool show for you tonight. Got lots of interesting things, but first, working for the Geekend.
Everybody's working for the Geekend. Everybody wants a saving throw. Oh. So I'm bringing to you tonight in video game news for working for the Geekend. Coming out, actually it already came out, August 14th, Neverwinter, Tyranny of Dragons, which is an add-on to the Neverwinter MMO, and it adds a new class, Scourge Warlock. Woo!
Scorelock.
Tyranny of Dragons campaign. I just killed that card. Lair of Last normal and epic dungeon. I don't know how you pronounce that. The Shore of Turun, normal and epic skirmish. Armor reinforcement kits, because gosh darn it, my armor was not all that reinforced. Artifact equipment, as opposed to the modern equipment.
Okay.
And Dragonborn. Huh, where have I heard of Dragonborn before? What game was that?
Thrones. Sorry.
This thing is Skyrim. But,
Of Thrones.
Of Thrones. I don't know, could be good.
Could be.
You let me know. You can, if you play it, you can send us a message. It's all that simple. Other video game coming out, and I have not seen this, so I'm really curious. It's called, if I'm pronouncing this right, you know Japanese, Akiba's Trip. Undead and Undressed for PlayStation 3. Oh, by the way, Neverwinter, Tyranny of Dragons for PC. Akiba's Trip, Undead and Undressed for PlayStation 3. Go on an eclectic trip through Tokyo's Electric Town, Electronics District, battling vampire-like, I guess not actual vampires, but vampire-like foes in over-the-top, highly stylized role-playing action.
Akiba, as in Akihabara.
Uh-huh.
I get it now.
Explain it to our fine folks at home.
So, the Electric Town is a borough of Tokyo. It's called Akihabara. And that's where you can buy all your electronics and games. It's really like a serious otaku heaven.
Ah.
So I get it now.
Well, I wanted to play it from the description. I want to play it even more now that I know some history behind the name. All right, movies, real quickly. Expendables 3. I'm sure it's going to be pretty much along the same lines of Expendables 1 and Expendables 2. If you like those, you'll probably like this one. I like it because I can turn my brain off and watch it. And then another one sounds really interesting called The Giver. Takes place in a world with no conflict, racism, or sickness. Every member of society has a specific role, and the main character, 16-year-old Jonas, is selected to be a receiver of memories, and he uncovers the truth behind the world's past as to how they got to where it is. Sounds like a really interesting sci-fi
That actually
movie.
sounds like one that I'd be interested in.
Yeah.
More hardcore.
Yeah, so that's Working for the Geekend.
Working for the Geekend.
And
Cool.
I hope you enjoy your Geekend. Now
And
this.
now this.
Hi, welcome to Book of the Geek, and this is Nicholas Fleur. The book we're going to be reviewing today is Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. So, this is one of my favorite books because, well, it's about this kid. This is supposed to be a little diary from a kid named Greg Heffley, and it's written and illustrated like it's a diary, and here's an example. And I haven't mentioned this, but Greg Heffley is the main character, and there are also lots of other characters like his family, and then the kids in his school. Well, my favorite character is the crazy kid who's named Fregley, because he does all these really weird, crazy stuff. And he even has his own vocabulary. And mostly the kids have figured it out by now, but the teachers still don't get it. This is one of my favorite parts of the book, and it's on a Thursday, where Greg finds out that he's going to have a substitute, and he says that substitutes are like pure gold, and that you can do anything while they're there. So this book would probably be good for ages 6 and up, because some smaller kids might have short attention spans. Thanks for watching, and I will give you back to Troy and Guy.
And we're back! Ta-da! Magic.
Amazing.
But before magic,
So I've been getting a lot of messages on Facebook and in my email and various places like that. Spam about the Kane EmDrive, which is this new drive that was just figured out recently. Actually, it wasn't figured out. Let me give you a little bit of
yes, because I've never heard of the Kane E5 drive until the opening of this show.
Right. It was invented by a guy named Roger Shawyer of Satellite Propulsion Research in the 90s. And essentially what it is, it's a drive that runs without fuel. The fuel is electromagnetism, so it can deploy solar panels. Instead of having a big fuel tank, it runs just solely on the electricity coming from solar panels, which is a major breakthrough. So I've been getting a lot of information about this, and I've been looking into it. And so he came out with it in the 90s. Everybody said, yeah, whatever. You can't produce thrust without some kind of reaction. So they said that whole thing, and okay, that was over with. But in 2010, a Chinese company proved that they were getting thrust out of this motor. Well, again, people were like, well, yeah, but the Chinese, huh? Well, then, just a couple of weeks ago, Johnson Space Center did it, and they managed to prove that it was actually generating thrust. And the engine that they used was even at 50% the power of Roger Shawyer's original engine. So they had even crippled the engine and it was still generating thrust.
I had saw something like this on Facebook too. I didn't make the connection because I didn't read the story, but I remember someone bringing it up, and I do remember someone pointing out they were wondering if how much is it producing a significant amount of thrust, or is it just the fact that it's producing thrust and said it couldn't be done that's the breakthrough?
Well, the biggest thing about it is that it's breaking the laws of
Physics.
motion.
You can't break the laws of physics.
It's breaking the laws of motion. Because what it's doing is it's generating an EM wave which generates a push on something. But nobody knows what it's pushing. But it's clearly pushing. They put it into a vacuum and it's pushing. Not a lot, but the ion thruster engine is not a very big push either. It just pushes a little bit, about as much as the weight of paper. If you hold your hand out, then this is about as much thrust as the ion engine makes.
Which is space.
Is a lot over time. It's cumulative. So it just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing, and ultimately you get up to a great speed. This is more interesting because the ion engine still needs a gas to generate the ion pulse, whereas this just needs electromagnetic power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the shape of the engine that causes it in some way. And it's a mathematical formula that's really long, and I'm not going to go into it right here because it would take a lot of room over here, and I'm not really going to go into it. But essentially, it's considered a motion impossibility, and I think it's fascinating. But the ramifications of it, because
We could have hoverboards
We could-
from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, it's just a matter of putting enough power into this engine to generate enough push that you could lift a car off the ground. Or you could lift you off the ground with a hoverboard.
That's more than a car.
That's more than a car. You and me both would be more than... Never mind. So, that's a fascinating thing. But the important thing about this is we could have ships. I mean, like right now, Voyager 1 and 2 are ballistic. There's nothing you can do about them anymore. They've run out of fuel. Everything's running out of fuel out there because we can only put so much on these little teeny things. But if this had a thruster on there, you just open up the solar panels, wait 2 or 3 years, because Voyager 1 is a long way from the sun now, and at some point, its batteries would get enough that it could thrust itself and move itself to a different trajectory.
This brings up a whole new aspect, too, to the people that are going to be doing their one-way trip to Mars.
Right.
It might not have to be a one-way trip.
It might not have to be a one-way trip, because you can take your fuel with you. You could come back. But this puts Alpha Centauri, which is the next star system, at 30 years instead of 4 or 5 lifetimes. So that's an amazing thing. Within our lifetime, within my son's lifetime, we could go to the next star system. That intrigues me.
We were due for a jump in technology, because if you look
Yeah,
at the
we were.
jumps and gaps of technology, we went from having crappy phones to cell phones to computers. So
We were due.
we could be seeing the next big jump.
This could be the next big jump. I mean, I'm still holding out, but it could be the next big jump.
We'll be back after this.
Hey, RC, what are you doing?
I'm conducting an experiment in thermodynamics.
Perhaps you should try something safer, like bull riding.
Hush.
And we're back.
Nice work.
Why, thank you. Thank you very much. And now we're going to do a little bit of magic.
Magic!
And not the kind that you would think that involves things up his sleeve,
Oh,
but
or half-naked girls.
half-naked girls.
Yep. Magic the Gathering. Arguably one of the most successful collectible card games out there. Defined, I believe, the term collectible card game. If you're not familiar with it, then you've saved a lot of money by just not knowing about it. It's a fun game. It's an interesting game. I really do enjoy it. The money sucks.
Yeah.
But in any
I
case,
agree.
we decided to help out a friend, Alex, who wanted to start sharpening his skills for sealed deck tournaments. So we're like, hey, why don't we do a little tiny sealed deck tournament ourselves and film it? It'll hopefully be fun and interesting to watch.
And you be the judge of that.
Yeah, you be the judge of that. So we got a few booster packs, and let's start off by showing you Alex.
Okay, my name's Alex Wilder, and I got into Magic shortly before Legends came out, and I played probably about 2000, 2001. And at that point in time, I was buying lots of boxes, and I got sick of it to stay competitive. So then I got out, and I got back into Magic through the gaming club at the community college last year. And so now I just basically do constructed EDH type stuff, commander stuff. And I like going to the seals because that means I don't need to buy boxes to stay competitive, but my deck building skills under that kind of pressure aren't very good, which is why I'm here doing this. So let's start doing some stuff. So I'm going to take a look at what I got in blue. Primarily, like I said, I really like the Oracle's Insight. is a great card in my opinion. A little bit pricey, but worth it. I'm going to take a look at my other colors and see what I can go from there. Maybe blue-red, maybe blue-black, maybe blue-white. Green, I don't seem to be much terribly impressive in it. Creatures, as per the usual. But, we'll see what I can do. So, that'll be it for now until we start playing. Thanks.
That was cool.
That was Alex. He didn't give us much insight
Doesn't give
into
him
his
much insight though.
deck building purpose, like why he chose the deck.
No, he just did a lot of.
Yeah. This is
Remember,
this
this
is
is a
good.
good card.
This
I
color
like this
sucks.
card.
So, but he did a blue and black deck.
Yep.
And then we'll now show you some Sunny, who's very more colorful.
Much more colorful.
And,
Now Sunny.
And he does a green and blue deck. Here he goes.
My name's Sonny. I've been pretty much playing Magic since the whole thing started about almost 20 years ago now, or maybe it has been 20 years, I'm not quite sure. I started playing with some friends of mine at the time, played for probably about a year, got out of it, came back in about a couple years later, played for a few years after that, and then I stopped again, and now I'm recently starting back up probably about a year and a half ago. So there's been a lot of playing, quite a few hiatuses, and for some reason it just keeps sucking me back in. When it comes to sealed decks or like pre-release tournaments and whatnot, I'll typically just open up the packs, sort them out by color, and then I'll figure out what colors has the biggest pool, and then I'll try and build a deck from that. And I'll also look at the cards also, because if you get the ever-loving bomb every now and then, you're going to want to try and, even though it might be a third color or a fourth color, you're going to want to try and find a way to actually put it into your deck so that you do have a way to play it. Because usually in sealed formats, 1 or 2 cards can swing the whole tournament if you happen to get them. A couple other things I look for when putting a deck together is 1, mana fixing. If you can, what's called ramping up to build up your mana base, because typically you'll just play 1 land at a time. And you have to wait, like if you have something that's 5 casting costs, you have to wait till at least turn 5 if you made all your land drops to play it. But if you got some sort of mana fixing or ways to put extra lands into play, you can typically drop like the 5 or 6 casting cost thing, you know, a lot sooner, say turn 3, turn 4, which can also swing a lot of matches. Now, looking at my card pool right here, and going off of when I was opening up the packs and putting them in the colors here, I know that green is a pretty strong color. I got a lot of big creatures and a few ways to actually pump them up. However, in white, I know I got a little bit of utility in terms of destroying what's called enchantments and creatures, because white is the only color that has certain spells that will say either kill this creature or kill an enchantment, or I'm sorry, kill this creature and kill this enchantment, as opposed to, say, green, which would just have kill this enchantment, or black, which would just have a spell that says just kill this creature. White typically has kill spells that'll kill more than one thing, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck. But if I had to pick 2 colors, I would have to say probably green and blue. I'm typically not a blue player. Like I said, I like to just go in fast and hard and hopefully beat their face into the ground. But looking at my pool, I know with the green I'm going to have enough what I call fat, you know, in terms of creatures, to the extent of where if I get them out, I'm going to be able to beat their face into the ground. But if I don't, they're also going to be really good defenders in case the other person actually has a lot of creatures out there too, and I can't quite break through. Now, the reason why I'm going blue, I got some good utility creatures like the one I showed you earlier. That's an awesome spell if you ever happen to draw it in a sealed pool. But I also saw that not only is there a couple other really good creatures in here, but there's utility. I got spells, once again, that'll, if they throw a big threat on the table, whether it's a creature or say they got an artifact or piece of equipment, something like that, I got spells where I could bounce it back to their hands or steal it from them, and then use it to, basically it's kind of like ripping off somebody's arm and beating them to death with it, which is another fun way to actually win a match if you ever get a chance to do it. So looking at everything, I would have to say I'm going to go blue and green with this pool, and we'll just have to see how it works out.
That was interesting.
Yep.
You got to admit, Nothing like Sunny.
beating someone to death with their own arm.
Yeah, that was cool.
So he did, as he mentioned, mana fixing. So,
Yep.
so I should mention this is not a 101 Magic class. This is definitely for advanced Magic players. This is
Yep.
coming into this. He mentioned doing the mana fixing, so you can ramp up your mana. The looking for the outright creature kill, so that way if there's something out
Right.
there, you go no. And then the was favoring having a fast deck for that.
Right.
And you may have noticed both he and Alex were sorting their cards by color to start out with, and you'll see all of us did that.
Yeah, actually, I don't think there was anybody that didn't sort
Yeah,
by
it
color.
just makes sense to do that when you're working with cards you haven't worked with.
Mhm.
So now let's take a look at me. Hello, Troy here. So I started playing Magic the Gathering back around 1994, 1995, in that area roughly. It was when the revised edition of Magic was going out and 4th edition was coming out. So the very first edition came out in August 1993, and they called it Limited Edition Alpha. And then October 93, they released Limited Edition Beta. And then December 1993, they released the Unlimited Edition. So there, when they came out, they were just rolling really fast with each edition. And it wasn't until roughly April 1994 that Revised Edition came out, and then a whole year later, 95's 4th edition came out. So somewhere in that block time, I started just roughly before 4th edition came out. So I got into it at a pretty good time. If only I would have started a couple of years earlier, I could have gotten some of the cards that are now like stupid expensive. But oh well. In any case, I played all the way up until let's see. I played roughly up until the Urza Saga ended, which was right around 98, 99. And that's when I sort of stepped out of Magic for quite a while. And it wasn't until recently, like 2012, 2013, I started getting back into Magic, mainly because of what was called Elder Dragon Highlander, or EDH, also known as Commander now. Really allowed me to start using some of my older cards that up until then they weren't allowed in average normal formats. So in any case, let's take a look at what we got here. I look for cards that can do mass board control. Anytime you can get more than one use out of a card, then that card goes up in value to have in your deck, in my opinion, as far as being usefulness. A lot of these are one-shot deals from what I'm seeing. This is a pretty good enchantment, though. It allows me to put it on a creature enchantment, then I can tap that creature for 1 mana of any color. That could be useful. So if I go second color and go light, green still could be a possibility, but I'm not seeing too much there making me think it's awesome. So my instincts are telling me I'm probably going with red and white, but I'm going to quickly go through blue and see if I have anything awesome in there. So my two multicolored cards, I should grab those. So right away one of them I see is red and white, which happens to be the two colors I have the most of. So that's a pretty good sign I'm going with red and white. It's special, it's a sorcery, 1 red, 1 white to cast. Strive is what it says as an ability. It's called Desperate Stand. Desperate Stand costs 1 white, 1 red more to cast for each target beyond the first. So I could target 4 creatures, and it's going to cost me 5 red, 5 white. Or I'm sorry, 4 creatures, and it's going to cost me an additional 3 red, 3 white. My math went backwards there in my head. Any number of target creatures gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and vigilance until end of turn. So that's a good multi-card thing to throw out there. Unfortunately, it's not an instant, so you can't surprise somebody with it. And then my other one is black and green. I'm not going black and green because I'm light on those colors, but the multicolor with that is not too bad because it can give it a one-time death touch or a one-time hexproof, which is not too bad. So, but I'm not going those colors, at least not that I know of yet. I might have just utter crap for white and red and then change my mind. So now that I've pretty much nailed it down to my 2 colors, I'm going to separate them into 2 piles, creatures and not creatures, because creatures are how you're going to win. What I'm going to want to do now is go through these and narrow them down to where I have roughly about 25, 26 cards total, and then I'm going to have, say if I do 26, that's going to leave me 14 spots left to hit 40, and I'll go like 7 red lands, 7 white lands. Or if I go a little bit lighter, I'll go with more lands in that aspect. And so I'm off to do that now. And that's the first part, and now someone else is going to come in here, open their packs, and talk to you about their strategies and how they're going to build their deck.
See, I like the way that you kind of laid that all out. I thought that was very, very straightforward. You did a red and white,
Yes.
which is an interesting color
And
combination.
it was all pretty much off of the fact that that's the cards I had the most of.
Right.
Which gave me the more options to choose from.
And that's what I thought was an interesting thing,
Yeah.
because I think Alex did not go with the most cards. I think he went with what he saw, the advantages he saw in the cards that he had, which is actually something that kind of I went with as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff I was doing with that deck that I had not done before.
Right.
But it seemed like a good way to go with it.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
And so far, we've had a green and blue deck, a blue and black deck, and now a red and white deck, and then you went with red and green.
Yep, red and green.
So we had all the colors of the spectrum covered. Let's look at your stuff.
Yep. Hi, I'm Guy, also from Rocky Mountain Geek Tank, just like Troy, and I'm here to talk to you about my idea of how to build deck building, which is better than Troy's idea of how to build deck building. So, better than Troy, I'm going to open these packs, and then I'm going to sort them by color. Amazing. So a little bit about me. I've been playing Magic since 91, 92, just like Troy said. I started just after dark and just before Ice Age. No, just during dark. I started during the dark and the middle of that section right there. I played for a long time. I got out of Magic whenever that's an artifact. Wow, the artifacts really aren't very easy to see, are they? Wow, that's kind of a wolf. I got out of Magic because it got to the point where if you had money, you won the game. And I didn't really appreciate that anymore, and I thought that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. I like playing to play. That's always been my goal, and that's the way I definitely live my life. I don't play to win, I play to play. I get to hang out with my buddies, I get to hang out with my friends, and I get to do all kinds of cool stuff. So, if it gets to the point where I get out there, I shuffle my deck, I draw 7 cards, and then poof, I've lost in 2 rounds. It's not fun anymore. So that's why I kind of got out of Magic. But recently, Troy and all of my buddies, we've been playing Magic with the. That's all right. We're not here to win. We're here to play and try and creative things. That's what got me into EDL, EDH, whatever is Commander, because we're just playing to play, and that's the way I always do things. I also like good artwork. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going for the red and green deck.
Guy is definitely the odd man out of the
I
four because he's the casual player.
I really am. I'm a casual player of all games. I don't ever play to win. I play just because I like to sit around with my friends and talk.
It takes a lot of pressure off of you.
Yeah, it really does. I don't like the high pressure games and everything like that.
And as an artist, you respect good artwork, so you
Right.
like the cards that are fun to look at.
I built one time an entire deck around Elves of the Deep Shadows simply because I liked the artwork on those cards.
Don't like the new artwork. I don't know if
I
you
don't
saw
like the new artwork. I like the old ones from the dark.
So the big things that we learned with that is try to stick as close to the 40 card count as you can, because sealed deck tournaments have a 40 card minimum instead of 60. Try to stick to the fast
Yep.
Because that was what was paying
Fast
off.
is better.
Fast is better. And trying to have that table control over the creature destruction and destroying the artifacts and just keeping control of everything.
And that's hard to do because a sealed deck means sealed cards. You're not putting in anything you got in your library, anything you got on your shelves.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can
And
do.
interesting things, before, about a month after we filmed this, we found out they announced for Magic the Gathering that they were releasing an entire block built off of sealed deck play, the Conspiracy.
Yep,
So
Conspiracy.
that whole series has cards in it that take effect during the deck building process.
Absolutely.
So we were onto something and didn't even know it. So that's something we need to do too at some point, is film ourselves trying the conspiracy stuff.
I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Yes. If you enjoyed that, please let us know at
RockyMountainGeekTank.com or questions at RockyMountainGeekTank.com. It's right here.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free. If you have questions you'd like to ask us, just send them to the RockyMountainGeekTank.com.
.com.
Or the questions one. RockyMountainGeekTankQuestions.com?
Questions at
Questions
RockyMountainGeekTank.com.
RockyMountainGeekTank.com. I had a question. I should have sent it to you.
You should have.
So, right back after this.
You're watching Geek Tank.
And if you like our show, which I really hope you do, click the like on it, and please subscribe. That way you can stay on top of all the stuff that we throw on Facebook. You'll get a little notice saying, "Hey, look, new stuff by Geek Tank."
Yeah. Subscribe to us. Like us on Facebook. Like us on the YouTube channel. Like us
In life.
in life. So, what did you think of the show?
You know, I liked it a lot. I'm really glad that we had this gathering.